Cool, thank you and welcome. I really appreciate you joining so early. I hope you can see the screen. I hope everything is good. So today I want to see how you can start building SAP integration using a DevOps process in this week. And I think this week is an important part because there's always going to be a lot of things that will block you, and they'll say, hey, this is going to be much more fun, or level 1 incident, or whatever. But you need to figure out what is the best way you can deliver. Hopefully I can deliver a good set of capabilities about what you're going to be doing here. So hopefully it works. So last week we talked about migration, and I do think that the DevOps talks a lot into this, because the migration is the first, I would say, gold standard about you exploring how you're going to build SAP integration for the long run, how you're going to work out all these things. And if you're adding DevOps, you would be able to deliver this integration much faster. We'll get into more details later about what it is about, but obviously see these as two conjunction, those joint projects capabilities that just gives you a lot more value in this. When I said DevOps, what is it that you are thinking of? Why? Please put some comments in the chat. What's your initial thought about DevOps, why this is interesting, does it mean to you in this perspective? Because I think there is a lot of overloaded in. We were today, Michael was running into this GitOps, and everybody puts in ops about it. Integration ops, I guess, is going to be the next big thing. So some of the things I think about is, when I see it, it is about, there's some technical part of it, but I guess the main part about it is about building a process. So here at FIGAF, we've spent a lot of time on building a way that enables us to deliver our tool in a better way, simplifying the way we're delivering integrations. Or simplifying the way we are delivering our product, removing as many manual steps as possible. So initially we had a lot of manual steps that we needed to do, but now it's more a click of a button and then a server that runs a lot of tests and a lot of builds and stuff, and then suddenly there's a new release coming out and you can say, hey, this is cool. So it is about, fewer errors, having a process in place that reduces the errors by testing, by checks, have the separation of duties. It's different people that can do different things. You have a continuous way of improving the process. And then there's the Git part about it, where that feeds into this also in some way. The ability to build your own custom pipelines, that's what we've been doing a lot for building the FIGAF tool. There's a lot of validation, and then as a manager, I have quite mixed feelings with this, because we may have been spending 300 hours, something like that, on building all these pipelines and ensuring that it works, plus minus. But from a user perspective, I haven't delivered anything more to you guys. It's all the same. It's all just a process, but I've increased the reliability, the ability for everybody to deliver code in a better quality. So that is the reason why we have been doing it and focusing on how we can simplify this journey. Why do you need it? I guess this is a lot of these things. It is, and when we're just talking about integration, it is because there is going to be a lot of new integrations that you need to work on. It's difficult to get really good developers that are working on these capabilities current transport methods not really ideal, because there's a lot of manual steps, and then you want to reduce the risk of the transport, making it easier. So I was talking with one of our customers earlier today that said, hey, we have these developers that are on a project, they then sign up and they deliver an integration and then they leave again. It's like, okay, you don't have any clue about what kind of iflow they've been delivering. Hopefully they deliver some kind of integration, but having all of that in test cases, all these things, that just makes the documentation much more easy to understand what's going on. When you then talk about it, there is obviously, it sounds good, it is something you want to do, but I also see it as something that, and maybe this is actually time for a poll. What is the challenges that you have with setting up DevOps? Because I guess since you're here, you probably didn't really want into setting up and doing a lot of these things. What is it that is the challenge that you have that's the most? I guess that we should probably have created this as a multiple choice, because I guess there's obviously a lot of these things about what is going on. But it is, yeah, as I see it, you need to spend a lot of time and effort on building a good process. If you could get something that was delivered in a short period of time, making it easier for you to be, and I guess, yeah, then it is a way to simplify the operation, understanding what is going on in this setup. Yeah, so I guess a lot of asking lack of skills, which I do fully believe that is, yeah. And I guess there's obviously the skill set for the people building this, but it's also the skill set from the developer organization. And then the two other, there are the responses, it's cost or too big of a project. Because yeah, if you have 200 hours you can spend on this, probably you can build something, but then you also need to maintain it and figure out what to do with it. And yeah, keep it going. I guess that's the main thing, that it is an investment and a continuous improvement on these things. So why are we different, and what do we think is a different way? So we started out building a test tool, and then we figured out, hey, we are building a test tool. We need to know a lot about all the APIs, about the integration suite. We might as well see who has made which changes. And then we figured out, hey, we might as well do transport. And then we applied the same thing for integration suite, because there was also a big need for this. And we saw that creating the tool that managed this in one simple way would really reduce the effort and the risk for working with your SAP integration. And that was the main focus of it. And then we wanted to make something that was easy to use, something you could get up and running in an hour, where you could actually see, okay, we can transport all our integrations, we can manage it in a way that is much easier than everybody else's, or other places or other locations. So obviously you can set up cloud transport management or whatever in a couple of hours, an hour or two, but you still have a lot of this thing about missing, not really being fully designed for integration objects, where you have both content and configuration. And that is the part that we really excel in. We only support SAP Integration Suite and SAP PIPO, so it is tailored specifically for this. And then I think the main part is we try all of this focus on developer productivity, well-being, ensuring that developers are focusing on the thing that matters most. So I've been working as a consultant in a couple of places, and the documentation level have obviously varied a lot between what we're supposed to be doing, what's going on. And sometimes it was really harsh, a lot of documentation that needs to be created. And then when you looked at it, it's like, it's fine, I can create this documentation, but it's never going to be updated. It's just a waste of time. But I guess you get your check mark in your governance strategy, so everybody is happy on it. And that was kind of thing. So it's like, okay, we can actually create this. We can create a good tool that manage all these things. Git, the elephant in the room. I guess we'll also have this poll here. Are you actually using Git or not in your integration? Git, fantastic tool, but I think in the main part in the integration is that you have two sources of truth. There's the web and your Git repository. Are you sure these are always in line? If a developer goes in and changes something, where do we also change it in the other one? What's the correct flow around these things? And you can obviously create some pipelines to do validations and stuff like this. Obviously, I would love to have seen that we had like a local runtime that we could, as a developer, I could sit on my laptop and code this, but I guess that is only in cloud integration you have that capability. That would have maybe made it more relevant to have a Git repository you check into. It's, I think, when I guess also a bit about the difficulty of working with these things. There is a huge step up about going into working with this integration that you need actually to simplify this journey. And then because of this duality, you need to apply some different configuration. It's not really the same pipelines that you can use to manage your Fiori apps as you would do as to manage your integration suite. It is going to be different, and that just means it is a different beast that you need to be managing here. So 66%? Huh, that's a strange thing. I see 66% on this one and 72% on the other screen. So that's strange. But yeah, it is. Not a lot of you are using pipelines or Git, which I guess is good because we also obviously support it. Our focus is more use it as a file share for those. A file share that would enable you to see all your iflows. You would be able to do full context search in it. We have created it with a lot of templates that simplifies the way you're working with this, so you can create an environment, you can get up and run a complete iflow or a complete Groovy script with test mocks, everything like that. I think I created a video, it's like 20 minutes long, about connecting to Git repositories, do all of these different things. And then you get, in IntelliJ, you get a fully functioning Groovy editor, and we even created some templates that would enable you to direct up and download content. So if you're working a lot on your Groovy script, that would be a way to go. But I would never go in and commit my changes here, because I always believe that it's better that it comes around from the integration suite. So whenever FIGAF see that there is a change of an iflow, it will download that and put it into the repository. So we do support Git. It is a good way to work for the 10% good developers that needs a Groovy IDE. For all the other ones, you should probably use the other editor that we have. We just added a slide on this developer well-being. I think it's important. I think it's important to think about what kind of task you're giving your developers. Are you actually giving them something that makes sense, or are you just giving them something because book says we need to do something, and then you put something into an Excel sheet that you check that it is okay. And they just, I don't know, or maybe it's just me that just loses the connection between what is going on. So a lot of times we talk with some companies that say, hey, yeah, we have a super governance process. When we are transporting our content, it is going into Cloud ALM or Charm, and then we have a approval workflow, and everybody is approving this, and it's super good. And then you ask them, but what do they know what they're approving? No, but they have approved it. And like, it kind of loses this connection. And I think that is an important part of this, having a good way that simplifies your way of working with SAP integration. And I guess, yeah, just have one tool that covers everything instead of the normal process about having multiple different places where you could do different things in. Okay. So when we get into talking about this, there is two main process when building integration. There's an iterative approach where you go in, you create, send some test messages, and you figure out, okay, what do you fix? You make some changes in the iflow, you run the test scans again, you continuously improve this process, and this is an essential part of building SAP integration, because you cannot go and say, this is how it's supposed to be going. It is going to be an iterative process about figuring out how all these things work and how you can add some extra components into it, improving your script mappings, all these things. And that's why it's built for iteration. And once you are then done and you have done a complete release, or you have something that's good enough, you go in and create some documentation on it, you create a transport request, you document this with test cases, and then that just simplifies the way you are delivering your integration. Does this somehow make sense and also align with what you're up to and how you're building integrations scenarios? I'll just check if there's something. Good. Okay, so let's first look at the development process. So one of the things we added recently was this send message. And the idea here was, now whenever I've been developing, earlier I had Postman running, now I have Bruno, but then I will have a way that I'll send a message in. But then it is just for developers an extra place where you need to go in and create test cases, run them, manage them, and we had all the capabilities in place, so why not join all of this together in one platform? And that's why we added the send message. We are adding some improvements on it to see the messages that it's producing, creating test cases, etc. Based on this, but the idea is we wanted to have like a simple place to send messages no matter what you're doing. It's sort, port, process direct, GMS, and I guess we can add some few more of the adapters we support. But this reduces the need for external tools for sending messages. The other part is about creating test cases, and I think this is also an important thing, because if you need to create a test case in like a real test case, go in and do validations, it is going to take a lot of effort. And then we're back to the part about the developer saying, hey, this does not make sense in my book. I'm creating a test case that doesn't really assess what we're up to. And we want to have a simple way to create these test cases that you can run anytime you want, and there's a lot of advanced features like mocking endpoints. There is the ability to connect multiple iflows together. If you're sending in a message in one iflow, pick out the result in other ones, and then always be able to update the test case when the iflow changes, because the iflow always changes. And then we have our Groovy editor. So I guess most of you is probably using Groovy IDE or Contiva's IDE. They're a really good tool. What we tried, and we're trying to reuse a lot of the same ideas and strategies. Our main part is that we are running this on the integration suite system, which means you have access to all the APIs and all the security content, everything that you have on this platform. It obviously means you should not enable this in production, etc. And that means you can also reuse your test cases. So if you have created a test case, you can use that as a way to send it into the iflow. We have an AI capability that would use OpenAI to improve the coding of your scripts. And it also works for XSLT, user-defined functions. And then for the ones that really want autocomplete IDE, fully function, scroll up and back and forth, go with Groovy, go with the Git repository for the IDE. So that's kind of the way we see the transport and how, or the development process. What is it that is going around in that area? If we go to the transport, so one of the things we have here is, and I think this is one of the things that have helped quite a few companies understand what they actually have. Because if you go to any company, you may have seen that somehow they're doing some manual transport between different versions, and then it's like, oh, I just need to make one small change and I'll do it directly in the QA and production. And that means that these iflows have different versions, and if you don't have any way to cover it, it is impossible to figure out. One other nice feature here is that it can check the differences in configuration in design time versus deploy time, which also makes it easier to troubleshoot why something is not running as it is expected. So there is a lot in this. You can compare iflows across tenants and see if they are the same, etc. So really a nice overview, and from here you can go in and trigger a transport. As you probably notice, we reuse the same tenant for both dev and QA. And this is because a lot of smaller SAP integration shops with whatever 10,000 plus employees would reuse a tenant for multiple different purposes, for both, or for dev, QA, and then they would transport or copy the content, and then that just means that it becomes really difficult to manage these things. With the FIGAF, we can automate this, so it will just add a prefix to it, and you're good to go. So that's our virtual landscape, and it is one of the easiest business cases for FIGAF, because if you could save an integration suite tenant, you got to a FIGAF license, and then some, and then there is a lot of reduction of all these dependencies that you have about creating test cases, all these things that would all be managed inside of the FIGAF tool, and hopefully we'll get to see that a little later. Obviously, questions, do put them into the chat. I'll try to answer them, and if I do not answer your question, put it into the Q&A or use it again. Cool. So one of the things that we use is we use tickets. And it is a way that you can say, okay, we want to have a ticket that correlates to, for instance, a Jira test case, or to a Jira service request, whatever, making it possible for you to actually trace back and say, okay, why did we actually change this or create this in the originally? And here you can then use this as a way to document these things. It contains a list of all the artifacts that you want to transport. You can link all the test cases to it. And once you have created, prepared all the objects, you can then, and tested them, you can create a transport request that can then be used to do the transition. And one of the things you probably notice is, or may have noticed, is we have two transitions, one from dev to QA and one from QA to production. Those would be two different transport. We earlier had like it was an end-to-end transport, but this just gave a lot of problems because a lot of times you would do a transport onto the QA system, and then it would fail, or you would need to do some bug fixes, and then it become really difficult to align all the transports. So the easiest is just to, so if you have a project, move all the transport into the QA, fix it, deploy it, test it, run it, and once you're satisfied, you just create a new transport of all the different artifacts that's a part of it and move it into production. And then you just have one transport that contains all the dependencies, and the tool obviously also checks dependencies. So do you need a script collection, etc. Okay. Let's try the demo and see if I can remember all these things. So the idea is I want to take an iflow, I want to create a test case, I want to change a Groovy script, and then I want to see how this affects. I want to transport it and approve it and move it into our QA system and then import it there. So let's see. Okay. Cool. So here I have my iflow. This is a super iflow. It contains everything you need to know and about looking up customer orders. But want to create a test case, and the easiest way to do that is to switch the iflow into trace mode. We have integration with CPI helper, and we can then go in and say, okay, this is the package here, and this send message request. Oh, I cannot change it here. We should obviously make edit if we wanted to do some changes to it. We can run it, and this would then trigger it onto the integration suite tenant in a few minutes time. This does not look good. So let's see, is it running on the 19th? So we can see it is now still being processed up here. Still processed. So one of the things we notice here is we have this FIGAF logo. This would enable us, or the F, that would enable us to go to FIGAF and say we want to create a test case. 8/19th, and we also just want to give it a name. Let's see if it's completed. So we can see the iflow has, no, it's not completed. So now it is completed. Probably it failed or something like that. And what the FIGAF tool will do is it will fetch all the trace details from this specific iflow, and then we will be able to actually see and use that as a baseline for running a test case. So it's completed, and that means we have 1 incoming and 4 outgoing messages. I guess this iflow is failing somehow, or we're getting to a wrong state. Anyway, let's see here. Yeah, we are getting an HTTP error here. Hopefully I didn't do anything wrong. Anyway, but the idea is so now I have a test case with these steps, and I can create a test case. I can decide which systems to run it on, and then that's a way to create a test case. And then I can use this test case for whenever I'm making changes to an iflow. So let's say that we wanted to, I guess I already have a test case for this. So I have a script up here, and I want to make a change to this. So I'll say here, I'll select the test2 here, and we can see it is one of my favorite old scripts. So it is just settings and headers. We wanted to make it easy for you to actually work on these Groovy scripts. So we actually have an option here that you can even go and do rename, which would rename both in the model and the script, and that would simplify building new iflows. So we'll go in here, we can take one of the test cases we have created. There was no data for it. So here we have a test case for it, we can run it, and we can see if it produces the right data, and we can see, hey, if we run again, we can go in and compare and see what is the difference, and we can see that this element has changed. And this is really a good way when you're building Groovy scripts, just to see where the changes with the tool, and we can see that there was some new entries that were found that was not a part of this. So let's see here. That is a bit strange that that one would fail. Let's try. Okay, so now it seems like at least this one is running successfully. We are getting response back, so that's good. Good. But let's just make a new change up here in the iflow. So we're changing error header 1. We can run it again, we can then see error header 1 is updated here. And we go in and we update it into the iflow. So we want to upload our content, and we want to then use this as our iflow. Neil, I will get to your transport question later about how to they stay in queue. I guess maybe we can do it now. Yes, so we have long-term persistency of these things. You can see all version histories for whenever you are going back. It's just about how many versions you want to save, and all the data is in your database, so you can keep them as long as you want. You can move them into the Git repository if you want a longer term storage and better capability to see what is going on. But you also have the ability to see version histories, all these things with it. So now I have changed my Groovy script, so I need to update this one again. And let me just edit here. So we go here to our references, was script demo header 2, set header 2, and here we can see we added this new entry in it. So we did just use it for this capability. And let's also just change here the last header. Put in the value here in the Daniel save as version. Now it's 52. We go in and create it as a version, and we deploy it. So this is the main way to build a test case and create it. We can go here to our, so we can see here what are the test cases we already created. So let me just use the last one I had here. I can go in here, I can select test result, run. So hopefully the flow would process faster now, or complete. So we can see the message was sent. And let's just see what is. So we do have some different options. We have exclude mock endpoints. We have different ways of creating tests depending on what you want to achieve with it. So we can see that there's polling. Polling means that we are trying to fetch some messages from it, and this sometimes take a long time because there is a lot of messages that needs to be processed, and that would be the reason why you want to exclude some of these, because that does not make sense. How many is using this virtual tenant? I think it's like half of our customers. So we have the really big customers where it's not really an issue, and then all the other ones that this is the way for us to go, because it just simplifies our operation. Okay, there is. So we can see now we're getting a lot of unexpected messages. I guess it's because we are comparing with a wrong test case. But the idea is that your iflow is going to change, so you always need to make modifications. So you can just go in and say, okay, let's update this to the test case that we have. And this is a way that you continuously start trying out running tests to make sure everything works smoothly, and as a way of you delivering integrations. So now hopefully it will go a little, it will create an okay result. If there's differences, we can go in and ignore elements, headers, all these things, and it's really easy just to go in and apply an XPath and say, okay, we want to ignore this time date. So testing, really powerful. There's a lot more to learn in that section. Good. So now we have built our iflow, and I just created a Jira or a ticket on this. So I'll go to my landscape here. I have my Jira landscape set up, and I want to select this iflow here. So whenever we're making changes, we want to create a snapshot of that specific iflow, because FIGAF needs all of these snapshots, and that means we have the ability to see what was actually changed between different versions. And this is really powerful. So we can see, if we do a compare here, we can see in the BPMN model viewer, we can see where precisely we changed something. It was this value that was changed. That is probably quite unique on this this thing. And then the other, if we want to see it with scripts, we can also see, okay, so where is a script has been changed. You don't want to use it for BPMN, but you can see it for the Groovy script that it is here. Yes, and I guess that's the part we are coming to now. This is the ITSM way. How do we actually interact with this? We do have a pre-delivered content package for Azure DevOps. We also have it for Jira, and hopefully at some point in time we will also create it for ServiceNow. But let's see here. So we'll find our iflow here. We can see it across the landscape. We can see if we have not moved it in this landscape. So we will create a new ticket here. We can look up which incidents we have, and there's one here that is webinar demo. It finds all the details that we need for it, and now we've actually created a ticket, and we can see that it is linked to our Jira service request up here. We can see the object that is in question here. What are the different versions of it? We can look up the different test cases that we have created. I guess it was this one I wanted to use. So obviously you should use all the different test cases. All your test cases should be valid all the time, because then it's easier for someone that needs to debug this to go and see what test cases do we have for this, and then we can run it. So we can go in here and we can run it, run on which tenants we want to run the test cases on. And then we can, it will take a little while for it to process, but in the meantime we can take the transport, and that means we can see what we have in the transport. We can go in and look at the configurations. So what kind of configurations do we have for this specific iflow? And we can see here that sometimes, or you can go in and do auto search replace on a landscape and say, hey, services.org needs to be replaced to QA. So put in all your S4 host names in between dev and QA. Let's just do that because we can. They would be automatically replaced in here. So we go back here, we go in and we say, go to our landscape. We can edit it here. So we created a landscape just to test this new Jira QA, and we update the landscape. And then when we go back here to our iflow, we can see that it figured out that I needed to auto replace this automatically. And then that, we can go in and figure all of these, and we can also go in and override and say, hey, I know what this value should be. So there's a lot of options on configuring these artifacts. Okay. I can also see the status in the SAP guidelines, what's going on these. And as a job, as I'm a developer, my job is done. I will send it to approval. And now I can also approve it because that's been set up. Obviously, you should not approve your own stuff. That should be obvious. But I can approve it, say good job. And now we have an option to import it, and we can go in and say, hey, let's import it. Actually, one of the things we also had here, and we can see here in the Jira that we actually created here, we can see all the statuses from these things. So we can see the issue, we can see the tickets, all these things that has been created, and hopefully at some point in time we will also see that it has been imported successfully. We have delivered some pre-delivered content for this, where you are on an integration suite platform, you know how to use integration suite, so it's pretty easy for you to modify these things. So you can go in and create these 3 iflows depending on what you want: a search iflow, update iflow with specific content, and then the last thing is an update back from your Jira system. So if you change the status to done, then you want to import it. So depending on one of these things, and this means that you can build your own flow quite easily, how you want to integrate it into Calm. It's not that difficult. I guess the bigger challenge is what APIs they have. But in general, I guess the main focus is you want to say, okay, if we're transporting something ABAP, we also want to import the integration at the same time. And with the FIGAF, it would apply the integration, it will configure it and deploy it in one transaction, making it much more smooth than what you would ever have in. So let's see if we enable this also. So now it actually says it has been imported. All of this is in my Jira, and I have the link to the ticket, so I can see everything here inside of the tool. And also here, there's a lot of documentation on this change about everything that is going on in this process. Questions on it? It is a lot of things into a small demo about both Groovy editing, creating test cases, creating transport, managing it. We also have some monitor that a lot of our customers is using that also gives some great insight about what's actually being processed on your integration suite systems. But this just gives you a good overview of what's going on. And I guess then the question comes back to this thing about the overview. How much time are you actually spending on your writing Groovy scripts? Where with this Groovy editor you could save a lot of time because you did not need to deploy it multiple times and run it, etc. About handling transport? How do you do that? And I guess the challenge with a lot of these transport is both bases and it is integration developers, architects that need to collaborate. Sometimes it is going to be Calm that wins, but the more you can say, okay, we do all our stuff inside of the FIGAF tool, and then we do some integration with your Calm, with your ServiceNow, whatever, then you can work smoother with this. Validating other people's requests, having this 4i principle just makes it a lot more reliable to do testing, and also I guess have someone that says, okay, yeah, I can approve your stuff and then I think you've done a good job. You should probably consider these improvement areas for improvement. You forgot the error handling. Stuff like that would be really beneficial as a way of your process, and it is just a click, just say we want an approver, and it shouldn't be yourself. You saw how easy it is to create test cases, keep these test cases, save them, persist them, and And yeah, I think so. A lot of time when you work with some customer, it's like, oh, I need to go into SAP and I create a purchase order. I need to create a goods receipt and stuff like that, and then they can create the invoice and they can send it. And there's one line invoice that just takes 3 minutes to create, and it's like, yeah, but it's not doing anything. It's not really helping. So what's the impact if you just became 20% more productive? I would argue that in a lot of cases it's going to be a lot more if you're using this full stack of development, just improving your processes. And yeah, I guess this is also this Calm demo, Jira demo. We have all of this in place, making it easier for you to deliver integrations without, well, I would probably not use this as is, but it is a good starting point. We're trying to get it into api.sap.com. Make your manual modifications to it so it match your requirement for process, because everybody have different processes for these things. One of the things that we have is this exploring of FIGAF. We wanted to create the easiest way to explore FIGAF without you having to install too much things, getting everything up and running. So we created this exploringfigaf.com. Let me see here. And this is like a one-stop shop that just shows you, here is how we are working with, here's how to connect, here's a basic setup. Then you can set up, configure it, deploy it, or run it on our cloud, connect it to a trial tenant, and then you can actually try these transports yourself, see how easy it is to create these, and then also get your team involved. And it's like, okay, this should be a pretty simple way of exploring what we have in our content with what we're dealing with. I think that's, and then I guess for next week, if you are in the topics of B2B, we have been doing a lot with B2B, but we are continuously adding more content in the B2B space. Some of the things we have been adding over the summer and since last is a one-click migration from operation mappings into fully functioning trading partner management. We have one-click partner creation, and we have a lot of testing that's going on that simplifies these topics. So I hope to see you there. If you have some B2B content, this is a must, because we have done quite a bit of improvements in this phase. So now it's time for questions. You have already put in a couple of them. If there's something I forgot, please just ask. There's also the Q&A. You can put in questions.